With that said, let's move on then to our next discussion. With us here we have Lena Mora and Solomon Kaisa from the Elimika Youth Program. Karibuni sana to the show.
Asante.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. Of course, as we all know, COVID-19, probably the most disruptive pandemic of the last century. And we've witnessed many other pandemics before, but this one, anyway, no one saw it coming and no one seems to have a way out of it just yet. And so different people have come on, to get kind of contribute their expertise, their skills, their efforts, their resources to trying to address this. And this is not left behind the Alimeka Youth Program that has actually been running a youth intervention campaign named Keep Hope Alive. So maybe to begin with, Lena, tell us about this Alimeka Youth Program.
Thank you, Joyce. Elimika, also referred to as the Construction of Knowledge Societies, is an initiative of the UNESCO Unit Twin Chair, the University of Nairobi, the university itself, a partnership with the university, and Ford Foundation.
Okay.
The main thing to note here is that Elimika is deeply anchored or rooted in the Constitution of Kenya, mostly, mainly Chapter 4, 6, and 11. That's the Bill of Rights, Devolution, and Leadership and Integrity. Elimika dates way back to 2013, and it has had a number of programs to date. Some focused on the community at large, but right now we are looking at the youth. We equip the youth with knowledge and skills to enable them face their lives and give them a way forward with the way things are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And for you, Solomon, how long have you been involved in this program, and what do you do for the program?
Since 2013, yeah, late 2013. Then what I was doing and what I've been doing, it's creating awareness through digital channels.
Okay.
That is use of social media, Twitter and Facebook.
All right.
Yes.
So tell us, maybe we can begin also by just kind of sharing your own personal experiences with
Sure.
COVID. Obviously, this has just been, I don't know how we're going to catalog this year, but it's been quite a time for everybody. What has your experience been?
Let me say that things have changed. Things have changed like massively. Apart from the program and what we are doing for it, for me personally, I would say that I have seen people go through a lot of mental health issues. I have seen kids out of school, and as a result, there are a lot of cases coming up, like kids are getting into drugs, even youth, including youth. Me, what I have done is I decided not to let that put me down. So I came up with a number of friends, me and a number of friends, we have been running different initiatives in Mathare Informal Settlement, counseling women there, fundraising for food and pads for the girl child, and basically talking to the young people there to keep hope alive, avoid getting into violent crime, because that destroys their lives at the end of the day. And there's a drug menace there, so counseling on that.
All right.
Yes.
What about for you?
The experience, it was it was interesting and awakening. That's what I would say. You can imagine waking up and being told today you cannot go.
Yeah.
We are staying indoors. So that period of adjustment was sort of stressing. Yeah, because you're wondering, you're waking up, where do you go from here? And you're used to waking up and going and meeting people, sharing experiences, but this time around, you don't even have that time to adjust and know how to share this information.
Yeah.
So the experience has been to now awaken to the fact that ICT is here with us, digital world is here with us. It is time to amplify it, use it as a channel and as a means of communication and sharing of information for good causes, like Elimika.
Right.
In Elimika, sorry.
Sure.
Yes.
And obviously, you know, this program, as you've said, you know, has a partnership with also University of Nairobi. And I think it's important for us to kind of just talk, you know, about the sort of challenges that students are facing right now.
Yeah, sure.
They've the other day I saw a kid talking about how, you know, people are forgetting that even as children we are affected. As much as they've been outside and playing and whatnot, even them, they're tired of being outside and playing and not being able to go to school and see their friends, or not being able to sit their exams and move on to the next level of life that they had anticipated. How is it, I don't know if you can share any sort of reflections or observations you have of now university students and the way this challenge has, or this pandemic has struck them?
Yeah, sure. We can, Joyce. The first thing I would mention is that there's been a shift, and you've noted that, online studying. And not all students live in places where they can access internet and get to learn. So there's a lack of balance, you know, in between those ones that can actually access, maybe who live in Nairobi and come from homes where they can afford to have that, and those ones that come from probably the rural areas where there's a problem with network. So I think at the end of the day, the learning process is affected. Then the main thing I would talk about is social support. There are students who entirely rely on their friends and maybe lecturers for that kind of support when they have issues. Maybe wherever they come from, it's hard. They don't have anyone back there. And so those are stuck right now, and that's really hard on their mental health, on their day-to-day lives. And then there are students who come from, let me say, struggling backgrounds. And maybe they also rely on this aspect of coming to school, being given a loan, you know, eating from that. So that is also affected.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's take a break at this point, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our two guests here and just talk about the Keep Hope Alive program and how that is actually reaching out to people during this season of COVID-19. Stay tuned. This is Full Circle with Joyce. All right, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. I'm here with Lena Mora and Solomon Kaisa from the Elimika Youth Program. Karibuni tena to the show.
Thank you.
And as we talk about one of the initiatives here, which is the Keep Hope Alive program, maybe let's explain that further for our audience members. It's actually university students who've been trained in counseling, and that way they're able to offer sort of peer-to-peer support.
Yes, Joyce. What happened is that the university, the UNESCO chair and the university had to find a way to have a wider reach to the youth. You know, within Kenya we are many. And as I mentioned earlier, the mental health crisis, it has affected everyone everywhere, you know, including young people. As you said, it's a big issue. So then what the program did, one of the main objectives was to train a team of counselors from the university who are right now, actually, they've already started counseling. So if there's a youth out there in Kenya who needs help, who needs someone to talk to, then they can be provided with the contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of this has been happening, of course, over social media because of the restrictions that we currently have in place. Talk to us a bit about that, Solomon, then the advocacy side of this initiative.
Okay. As I said, ICT is here with us, and the digital world is here with us. To maximize on that, we are actively involved in sharing information of hope, keeping the hope alive. So there is messages that are shared on a regular basis through our Twitter channel and Facebook. Those are the main channels that we are using currently. And basically is finding messages that are relevant for this season to share out with the youth.
Right.
That can be spread to fellow youth.
Yeah.
And what we are saying is stop the spread of the virus, but spread the hope.
All right.
Yes.
And maybe just to sample a few of the messages that you guys have actually been sending out on social media. Someone here, or actually from the UNESCO Chair UN Nairobi handle, saying, "We as the Elimika family believe in the power of the youth. Young people should take up their places and fight corruption as they call for transparency in the way resources are being utilized from all arms of the government." There's also another one here saying, "Avoid busy and crowded spaces. Even after the lockdown is lifted, if you need to shop for food or other essentials, try to avoid busy hours and ensure you have fresh air." There's another one. "Even as the world grapples with what life after COVID-19 will be like, youth have to demonstrate leadership in their communities and in their ability to remain resilient." So this is just, I guess, a few of the messaging that you guys are putting out through digital channels. And so far, what would you say has been the response of this? Is there a way you're able to measure like the impact of this peer-to-peer counseling?
Yes, there's a way. Each week we have an assessment carried out on the number of people that the tweets reached, the responses that we got from that. And if I can give a contribution on that, I would say that we need to give each other a voice as youth, as young people, you know, like that platform. Other people can also come up with platforms, similar platforms, to remind the youth that this is our country, this is our Kenya, you know. Whatever is happening around us, if we do not make it work right now, you know, we need to give each other hope. We need to fight corruption in whichever way we can. We need to be responsible, you know, responsible young people, because there's nobody who's going to be responsible for our lives and the choices that we end up making and wherever we go.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to other students then maybe who kind of want to be part of this program, are the training sessions already complete? And how many are we talking about that have been trained so far?
The estimate is about 100. Those who are trained, and due to the restrictions that are there, we also have to work out ways of reaching out to other people who are to be trained, and probably use the digital channel probably to deliver the content. But currently we can say that there is no training that is in place because of what is happening.
Okay.
But should things open up and we are allowed to reach out to more people, they should be invited for the training and keep the hope alive, running.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
To add on to what Solomon has said, when you train people, it's like you're training trainers, you know. It's meant to have a ripple effect. If you train 100, say roughly 100 students, those skills, they're encouraged to train others, you know, in the process of counseling. If you meet other people in your neighborhood, talk to them. Tell them this is what they can do in case they come up with such a case, you know. So then we expect that to already be spreading as we wait for the country to open up and for us to be able to have larger gatherings.
But isn't there also a real concern with that, though, in the sense that counseling obviously is a very sensitive field? I mean, this is people's personal emotions, their lives, information. There are people who go and, you know, do this to degrees. And already when a lot of the pressure that we experience is from our peers, what is part of the training really as far as sort of ensuring that that safety is there even as people begin to express themselves? Because one would say, why should I talk to another student just like me, even if they've gone through this training? And I don't know how long the training is or how extensive it is, but maybe you could just address that for those who might be concerned about having, you know, university students offer counseling.
Okay, just to chip in before Lena comes in, just to say that Elimika in itself is taking the university to the communities. So it's moving that ivory tower from where it is to the communities, taking knowledge to the people. So what is happening is when you sensitize, as she was saying, you sensitize these people to be carriers of message of hope. It's not a professional counseling as such, but you carry a positive message about you or say a community has sent you to the university to go and gain knowledge, then what do you do with that knowledge? Do you sit with it at university, or do you bring it back to the community? We are saying, let's take this knowledge back to where it's supposed to be consumed.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you able to speak to maybe part of what, and I like that you've clarified that this is not a professional counseling certificate or diploma, and maybe even using the word counseling might be confusing for some people, but what we're talking about here is this message of hope and being able to spread that to our communities. So are you able to sort of talk to us about then how that, or what some of the other highlights, I guess, of the training that is being given, that this message of hope is then being able to be spread to people around?
Let me first talk a little bit on the question that you asked earlier. When the students are brought together, there are definitely roles to that, and there's the aspect of privacy and confidentiality that they are asked that if you are going to talk to other people and they're going to share on their issues with you, then you should be in a position to know that that's confidential, that's shared in confidence, unless you feel that probably the person is suicidal, or they have like other deep-rooted issues and they need further counseling, then you could ask them if it's fine for you to share that information with the main counselors at the university, you know, for them to get further support. Yes?
Yeah, I was just going to point out to a question here. Someone is saying, is Elimika Youth an open program to other members of the public? So am I allowed to join them and help in spreading positive messages during this pandemic? Of course, we've talked about how this was sort of, the hub of it is University of Nairobi.
Yes.
Is there a plan at all to sort of extend this, because that's just one of the universities, is there a plan to extend this maybe to other universities as well?
It is. It is a program for all youth in Kenya. It's just that the hub is at the University of Nairobi.
Okay.
So we encourage them, if they're interested, they could write to us, you know, and they could always come in and chip in, send messages, or then write to us and ask whatever they have to ask, and maybe tell us where they think they can contribute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can let us know how they can write to you, and we can repeat it at the end as well. But how do they actually contact you?
We have an official email address. We have a Facebook page. I'll be giving you that.
Okay.
The name that we
you
use
can say
there.
that even now.
Yes.
Yes.
Or do you know it now?
Out. Yeah, the Twitter handle is UNESCO UON.
Yeah.
At UNESCO UON, that is Twitter. Then on Facebook, it's UNESCO Chair, University of Nairobi.
Okay.
Then the email address.
UNESCO underscore Unitwin at UONBI
.ac.ke.
What was that first part? UNESCO underscore?
Underscore Unitwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's the email address if someone wants to get in touch with them. Mudani here is saying, again, it's a testimony that, you know, as young people, we can remain productive even during this season. She's asking again about the motivation behind the program. Very quickly, maybe you could reiterate that for her.
The motivation behind the program is, let me first state that we followed what World Health Organization was talking about, what the government was talking about, and then we saw the trend in the country, all over the world, you know. So then initially we thought of what are these things that people are suffering from, you know, after the initial messages were sent out on how to prevent COVID and all that. So now it is response, you know, right? What are the main key issues? So that comes down to how we picked out our themes. So we thought of stigma. We thought of domestic abuse, which is, you've noted all over media has gone high. We thought of mental health counseling, that's supporting psychosocial support, and different other subjects. So from there, we picked those out, then developed the messages and spoke to people on the ground, you know, be it on phone or then like one-on-one communication, and that's how we picked that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Someone here is asking, do they do anything else apart from counseling and reaching out to the youth, like giving out material to the less fortunate? And they're saying here distribution of sanitizers, perhaps.
What I would say is that there's a plan. One of our objectives is to reach out to the needy youth. So there's still a plan to do that, but we started with others, so we'll eventually get there.
Okay.
Yes.
And obviously, even for those who are seeking to join the program right now,
Yes.
because of the restrictions, the initial training was in person? Or was it in person or was it online?
The initial training.
The initial training was in person.
In person,
Yeah.
okay. So is there a way now to actually be able to conduct the training online, even for those who want to join right now? Or that's what you're saying, we sort of still have to wait out for you to figure out?
Probably just maybe to motivate them, those who are asking. What Lena was saying, Elimika is based on the Constitution of Kenya, and there are areas we cover. And what Alimeka does is actually bring the Constitution into life. To do that, it's ask people to find areas, opportunities within the document that is the Constitution. For example, a youth out there could be an artist. They could be innovative enough and draft a message of hope in a drawing, in a poem, a song, of which we have some artists who have done that. They have done composed songs with messages of hope, and also with messages that they can maximize on in building their livelihoods.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but again, though, to the point of the training might not be possible right now, basically.
Let me chip in on that.
Yeah.
The key counselors met in person because of the restriction on numbers, but the students were trained online.
Okay.
The student counselors, there are 100, the peer counselors, they were trained.
online.
They were trained online. So if what we can do right now is to see if there's a way that further support can be given that
Yeah.
way-wise, then we can get back to you.
Okay.
But then they can still reach out to us and see if there's a possibility that we will be extending that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So for all of you who are asking about that, you can still reach out to them, and they will sort of try and organize and see how they can actually do that. Maybe one of the simplest ways to do it would just be to kind of create standard messaging and share that with some young people. That even before they get the counseling,
Yes.
that's something that, you know, if there's a guide or something, that's something they could all use and share. Like providing, because you said you've already done the work to develop the messages.
Yes.
I think that would be a good way to go for it as well. But certainly, I think as we prepare to wrap up this segment, there's a lot of young people really struggling. You know, hopes for school, internships, getting a job, and all of that really seems to have just kind of fizzled out in this year. I think it's important that we are talking about a message of hope.
Yes.
Otherwise, without hope, there's nothing much else that we have, right? So very important that we are sending out that message, and more so that the leadership of it is from young people.
Yes.
And I assume this is both men and women involved in
Yes,
the
it
program.
is.
Is there a particular age group, perhaps, like year 1, 2, 3, 4, or did it cut across?
It cuts across.
It cuts across.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, for more on the Elimika youth program, again, just let us know how people can find you, interact with your content and with your information.
At UNESCO UON, that's Twitter. UNESCO Chair, University of Nairobi, Facebook. Then UNESCO Chair.unbi.sa.ke, the website.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you both very much for coming today and just sharing this message of keep hope alive. Certainly an important message we all need to be hearing as we go through this season. Keep hope alive, guys, and keep chugging along even as we trust God for a solution to COVID-19. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana.
All right, guys. With that said, we're going to take a break now as we get ready for our final segment of the day. Coming up next, we're going to be meeting a couple that have been married for 20 years, and they're going to be sharing some of their tips with us here on the show. Stay tuned.